Regret is a painful emotion. It's all of the pain of a bad memory, but with the additional pain of knowing that you were the one responsible, or that you hold some responsibility for what happened. It's the knowledge that it could have all been avoided if you'd only acted differently, or if you'd known better. And it's that much worse when it's someone else who you hurt with your mistake, and when the consequences are irreversible. Everyone has regrets, that is, probably many, many small regrets and a few larger regrets. Some regrets you feel instantaneously after doing something wrong that you know was wrong at the time of doing it, or a mistake that was made completely by accident. And some regrets you don't come to truly regret until many years later, looking back on what happened, when the mistakes are small and the outcome is obvious immediately. The normal impulse is to apologize to whoever it is that you've hurt, and you can certainly try to repair the damage if that's possible. Sometimes there's something you can do to fix the damage or to replace what was broken. One common response to regret is to commit yourself to changing your behavior so that that won't happen again. You can promise to yourself or to others to be a better person from now on, who won't make those kinds of mistakes and who is going to be more careful in the future. And all of those things are good, and they might go a long way to repairing the situation, but the feeling of regret always remains for as long as the memory of the mistake remains. The feeling of regret has to remain forever, for as long as the memory exists, as a constant reminder to avoid making that mistake again. You're never going to look back on that memory and not feel some regret associated with it. That is how regret is functioning normally in a healthy person. As a lifetime progresses, these number of regrets sort of just builds up. It never goes down. You just keep making mistakes and you keep learning, and the number of the regrets you have just builds and builds until you die. The best thing about regret is when you can share it with other people and to let them know the mistakes that you made, the things that led to that mistake, and you can try to prevent other people from making the same mistakes that you made. Describe the frame of mind you were in that led you to make the mistake, and to let people know that they might not be as safe as they think they are, that the behaviour that they are participating in or that they are considering may be much more dangerous than they think it is. That kind of warning can be very effective, and psychologically the fear of later regretting something is a very strong motivator to frighten people away from certain behaviour. But that instinct to warn people away from the behaviour that you yourself regret and that you have suffered from can be taken to an extreme in people who have a lot to regret and who have suffered a lot. People who feel the most guilt and the most shame over what they've done, possibly repeatedly over a number of years, it sometimes causes them to swing and overcorrect back in the opposite direction too far almost, where they become kind of sycophantic about policing the behaviour of other people, and they become the sort of loudest and least compromising voices in condemning whatever behaviour it is that they regret themselves. For example, you might think about the male feminists who are ardent believers in protecting women from predatory males, but who themselves are often revealed to be abusers and mistreaters of women. Because they know how easy it is to fall down that path and to let themselves get involved in that kind of behaviour, they are the most vigilant about policing that instinct in other people. They might even overestimate how much other people are in danger of participating in this behaviour, because they want to think of themselves as average, that they don't think of themselves as any less moral or any less of a good person with good self-discipline and ethics. They think of themselves as average or even better than average. So if they have made this mistake and if they have done this thing wrong, how they think it must be extremely easy to make this same mistake for other people. They might even be self-righteous and extremely loud about accusing other people of these misdeeds as a way to sort of deflect the attention away from themselves and project their guilty conscience onto others. So it may just be a case of self-preservation, but I think there's also a sense in which it's a way to try and alleviate that sense of regret, that remorse that they've done something, then there's just no way to fix it. In the case of the male feminists, they may have hurt women in their past. They've done things they're deeply ashamed of, and there's nothing you can do to change the past. You're still the same person who did those bad things, and sometimes it feels like all you can do is try to condemn other people who you suspect of indulging in that behavior, or who you suspect may indulge in that behavior in the future. But what I really want to talk about in this video is a completely separate category of regret that it seems to me it causes some people to go completely in the other direction. Rather than self-flagellation and or self-righteous preaching, they turn to what I want to call in this video cope. I'm sure you're familiar with Aesop's fable of the fox who is eager to eat some grapes, but the grapes are too high up. He can't reach the grapes that he wants to eat, so he just gives up and declares that the grapes will probably sour anyway. So he's able to mask his failure by pretending he didn't want the grapes to begin with. This is one example of what is these days called a cope. Of course, the word to cope as a verb is a very well established and commonly used English word, but a cope, the noun form of the verb to cope, is a fairly new word in the English slang lexicon. Cope is the armor that you can wear to protect yourself from personal insults and people who have opposing worldviews to you. It's a kind of intellectual gymnastics that you can perform to assure yourself that you are correct and that you're a good person and your life choices have resulted in positive outcomes for yourself and for other people. Cope is just a way of describing any denial of reality that makes you feel better. It's just a lie that you tell yourself. But what I want to talk about in this video is a specific kind of cope which I suspect is used to mask regret. And I'm not a mind reader, I don't know what's truly going on in people's hearts, so all of this is just my speculation, but it seems to me that sometimes the regret that people have for the way that they've lived their life is so huge and so unavoidable, so hard to ignore. At a certain point, it becomes their identity and they simply cannot face the regret. They can't admit to themselves that they regret these things, and they just have to stick with what they've done and form that as their identity.
Let me give you some advice, bastard. Never forget what you are. The rest of the world will not. Wear it like armor, and it can never be used to hurt you.
And what they often do, I think, is to encourage others to adopt this way of life or this identity themselves, because it becomes a kind of self-validation for other people to make the same mistakes that they've made. They often will be honest about how unhappy they are, that their life has not turned out the way that they wanted, or that they've hurt people in their lives through making mistakes. But they don't link this unhappiness to their mistakes, to their regrets, or to the consequences of the mistakes. It's very difficult to bring up examples of people honestly, because I don't know the particular circumstances of anyone famous, and it wouldn't be polite of me to divulge the what I know about people personally. So you'll have to use your own imagination of people who you know both personally and people who you may think of in the public eye. If it sounds like I'm talking in coded cryptic language because I'm trying to hide who I'm really talking about, it's true that I have a few people in mind, but I don't want to get into particulars. But I really do think this is a kind of a rule or a tendency that I've been noticing in a lot of people. I'm not subtweeting one particular person, but to choose an example that I feel is the safest to talk about, it's becoming increasingly common for women who never wanted to be mothers before. They get into their late 20s, their 30s, or their late 30s, and they then wish to become a mother, and often it's too late. They've waited too long. I've made videos about this before. As women are choosing to pursue their careers, to pursue a more luxurious lifestyle compared to the difficult work and the money that they would have to spend on becoming a mother and being a mother. And it's my personal belief, and you can leave a comment if you disagree, but I believe that there's an unknown percentage of these women who celebrate their child-free status, who tell anyone who's ready to listen that they enjoy being childless and enjoying all of the things that life can give them now that they have increased freedom, they have more money, they have opportunities for extravagant lifestyles and impulsive behavior that they couldn't even dream of as a mother or as a parent. I think a lot of it is cope, I expect. It's a way to reassure themselves that they've made the right choice, and also to in doing that, they are also encouraging other people to make the same choice, because when they see other people take their advice and to make those same choices, it validates that choice. It makes it seem like they made the right decision. And you could certainly say the opposite as well. Maybe the people online who tell you how happy they are having gotten married or having kids, maybe that's all just a cope as well. And they deeply regret these choices that bind them to other people and reducing their freedom and spending all their money on their family. Maybe these are actually the people who are who regret these choices and are now coping by trying to encourage other people to do the same. And I'm not going to deny I expect people who do that as well. On the other hand, what some people call cope may also just be healthy stoicism in trying to have a positive outlook on the things that you can't change. Facing the decisions you've made and regretting them doesn't really benefit you personally. So from a purely selfish point of view, it is better to try to come to terms with the mistakes that you've made, and to try to identify the things that are good about your life, that you like about your life, that are a consequence of making these decisions. But I think it becomes something very toxic when these people start to encourage others to go down the same path. That's really all I have to say about that topic at this time. So I'll thank you very much for watching, and please join me Fridays at 9 p.m. for Women's Hour. That's on this channel. And do drop into the chat and say hello. Have a very good day, and I hope to see you again soon.